Hello, Greg. How you doing?
I'm good. How's my microphone working?
You sound fantastic. You sound great. How do I sound?
You sound good.
All right, wonderful. Well, we'll go ahead and get started today. We're going to be talking about AI marketing. My name is Ian Schiller. I'm with the Visalaw Marketing Team, and I'm joined today by the man who needs no introduction, Greg Siskind. And we're going to be doing, I think, our first episode on legal tech conversations within immigration. We're presented by Visalaw.ai, the immigration intelligence platform that you can trust. And so, Greg, just for a little bit of background for everybody, we want to do these legal tech conversations, these immigration legal tech conversations, because there's so many different ways that people can, improve their practice, that they can become more efficient if they just have the right tools. And we know that tech stacks these days can become really complicated, and we kind of want to help, explore the evolving landscape of legal technology and dissect innovative applications of those. So this week, we're going to explore the applications of marketing, specifically using applications with AI tools for legal professionals. We're going to test out a prompt today and see what that looks like and show people how it can be done. So I think that's going to be a really exciting time for people. And really, what we know is that immigration professionals could really use some additional marketing at times. We know that according to the AILA Practice Pulse, nearly 10% of respondents reported lacking enough work. I don't know if that's something you can relate to, Greg, or not.
No.
Yeah, but it's kind of remarkable knowing the immigration landscape right now that there are respondents to the AILA Practice Pulse that were reporting lack of work, and of those 10%, 42 blamed insufficient marketing. So that's sort of what we're hoping.
There's lack of work and there's lack of the right work on there. So for a lot of lawyers, there's certain kinds of cases that they prefer that may be for one reason or another. Maybe that they're more profitable, and maybe that they're more interesting. That maybe that they like those types of matters better. So marketing is not just about quantity of overall work that you're bringing in, but getting the work that I think gives you sparks joy. Isn't that what the Maria Kondo said? Whatever the
I think so.
I know that book, and I read probably a chapter of it.
Absolutely. And Greg, speaking of marketing, you spent some time this weekend at a conference. How was that?
So I was in Barbados for 48 hours, which my recommendation is if you're getting on an airplane and going someplace for 5 hours, that you spend more than 48 hours there.
Especially Barbados.
Yeah, this was the AILA Latin American chapter conference, and I've spoken at some of their meetings over the years. And they had two panels on tech, and one was on AI, which I was happy not to be on the AI panel. I was on a different tech panel, and I had a lot more flexibility as far as topics I was going to talk about that were tech related. And I guess sort of the point for this is we are advertising this as a legal technology live stream. We are not saying this is AI. There will be AI, but that's not the only thing that there is to talk about. There's a lot of interesting tech, a lot of tech that might be considered mundane compared to AI, but it's still really super important for law firms to get their get a good handle on it. So the intention for this live stream, and I think it's worth saying, since we're in the first few minutes of this, what will hopefully be a regular schedule, and you'll talk in more about sort of like what our schedule is going to be. But the idea is that this is not a commercial for Visalaw AI. This is conversations about legal tech. The emphasis will be on immigration law. We may drift from that from time to time about more broadly, but we will be talking about all kinds of tech. And so that was the case there was a little AI in my panel, but I'll tell you what that was. But basically, one of the projects that I've done over the years, I think we've done it 5 times now, Josh and I have done this survey of the immigration bar when it comes to case management systems. We were we've looked at a lot of different potential tech moves over the years that we were going to take before we kind of like honed in on what people are seeing now. We wanted to learn a lot more about case management systems. So we did that survey in 2018, and then we've repeated it it's not every year. Every once in a while we skip a year. I think we skipped COVID. But we did the 5th survey in the spring of this year, so it's relatively recent. And I was talking to the audience about the findings of that survey. So I have that. I talked about that, and then flip side. Well, actually, we had 3 topics that we dealt with. That was one, and I was with Maitia Hoyos, who is a great lawyer down in South Florida, and she and I talked also about this new fee rule that has been driving Siskind Susser lawyers crazy, and we driving everybody crazy. Where now USCIS will only take credit card payments, no longer taking checks for the different kinds of cases we work on. Well, that doesn't seem like that terrible a thing until you realize it's all paper filing. So nobody wants to put their credit card numbers on these filings that get sent to the mailroom, and could be basically seen by anybody. So
Right.
now there have been like these virtual credit card that people are using, and they're using credit cards that are designated just for. Anyway, USCIS, it's been a complete mess. Tons of rejections across the country because the mailroom screwed it up, the law firm screwed it up. Whoever, you can cast blame where you want, but that was one of the topics we talked about, is sort of what are maybe some of the better practices that firms can do. And then I think the part of it that the audience probably got the most out of, and I'd love to talk about that if we want here. We were talking about Google reviews and what to do if you get a bad Google review on there. And this is something that is a fact of life for most business owners in America, that sooner or later you're going to get a bad review. And so we were talking about what are your options, what are best practices, and then in both cases I added some AI slides into the one on case management, where I talked about some of the AI features that case management systems were starting to add into the case management systems. And then I talked about how LLMs are now becoming a way that people are searching for lawyers, and that maybe Google reviews are not quite as important as they were a year or 2 ago, with the advent of people that are having ChatGPT doing the vetting as opposed to all the reviewers online. So I am happy to talk about any of those topics today, or all of them. But that's what I talked about on this panel, and I had a good time doing it. And it was kind of nice because I speak a lot about AI, just like everything about AI. And I know I'm going to get to speak a lot about AI on this live stream over on the calendar. But I like tech topics generally. Also, one of the things I'm looking forward to is that we'll start to have guests on and talk about some of these topics, including hopefully some of the case management vendors and some of the lawyers who may not be immigration lawyers, but have insights that they can give to immigration lawyers about different technology topics. So I'm looking forward to this. It's hard to get me to shut up, but that's your job, Ian, is to keep it moving along. And I hopefully once that people will make this a regular thing that they tune into.
Yeah, well, that's a great explainer. And I think for anybody who's joining us today and are interested in learning more, we're going to be super open to what conversations are relevant, what's topical, what's going on. Today we know how quickly immigration law changes, how quickly the landscape can be affected by who knows what. So as things come in, if you're watching today, or if you're watching asynchronously tomorrow, the next day, if you're seeing this a while from now, you can always leave a comment in wherever section. You can ask a question today as we're going through the live stream.
You can
and
give
we'll
us
be
suggestions
receptive
for
to
things you
those.
want to hear about in future live streams as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Guests we should have on 100%. It's really a choose your own adventure type deal here. So yeah, well, without further ado, Greg, I think let's talk a little bit about how people are using, how immigration lawyers are using AI for marketing, or how they should be. Um, and so, in your experience, you were one of the first people on the internet, and you saw how game changing that was for immigration lawyers, and how big that was for your practice. AI is sort of one of these new frontiers where we're kind of, at the same time exploring and figuring out what's possible. We're sort of getting into the time when you can really apply it. You can use AI to build a plan for yourself. You can use AI to build content for yourself. Um, in your experience, have you gotten the chance to use AI for your marketing? You obviously have a huge presence and have been able to build up a really reputable name for yourself. What has been your experience using AI for marketing specifically?
I use it all the time for tasks that would be considered marketing tasks. First off, one of the things that is nice about AI is that it's a really good tool to essentially repurpose content that you've already produced. Um, so let's say you write a long form article about a particular topic, and maybe you were writing this article that was, you were aiming it at other immigration lawyers. Um, on there, you can take that one piece of content, and then you can really morph it into lots of different kinds of things. So maybe you would turn it into you would first, maybe you want to turn it into something client facing. So you can change the language in there to simplify concepts, change the language that would be more appropriate for the layman. You can do all that kind of stuff with it. You could take it and maybe turn it, maybe you want to turn it into a client mailer, or maybe you want to turn it into a blog post, something that's much shorter form. But you can also do things like translate the document into, for maybe you want to have 5 different versions of that article for different audiences that you are working with. AI is great for translation. Tip for that, by the way, is translate whatever you're talking about, and then take that translated piece, maybe go into a different tool, maybe do it in ChatGPT, take the translation, go over to Claude or Gemini, put it back in and say, translate this into English. And when you're reading it back in English, if it looks pretty much on the mark, great. If it looks like this is not what I intended and it's really different, that's the problem. But you can, that's one of the techniques you can use, even if you don't have a person in your office who speaks the language. You can use the AI to help you grade essentially what LLMA does by using LLM2. LLM, by the way, if you're not familiar with that, it's a large language model. That's what ChatGPT is. That's what Claude is. That's what Gemini is. That's when we're talking about that. So, and by the way, we will be. Despite the fact that I have that we have an AI tool that does some tasks that are done by ChatGPT, I use ChatGPT. I use Claude. I use Gemini. Depends on what the task is. If I don't have any confidential issues, if I'm doing something that is perfectly fine, if it leaked out to the world on there, and that's when you should be using it. Just don't use it for if you're taking a memo that you wrote to a client explaining something, then you upload it into ChatGPT and you said, make this a generic document for a broader client mailer. That's a bad thing on there, because for 2 reasons. One is that the language model itself you might be training the language model with confidential client information, and 2, depending on what was in there, it's probably for client marketing content. It's a very low risk, but it depends. There are occasionally things that people like maybe you're writing something about U visas or something that there's a sensitive topic, and it just, one or two words might trigger a human in the loop over at ChatGPT, where somebody in Kenya or one of their other places that they have these people might actually look at something that you produce on there. So you want to be really ultra cautious about using the public tools for anything involving with client information. But for marketing, that shouldn't be the case most of the time. So you could find that in a lot of cases you should find that using those public tools are just fine for the task at hand. By the way, some other things you could do with that content on there, aside from turning it into a blog post or turning it into a client mailer, you can turn it into an FAQ for clients and just do some completely different kind of format. You can draft scripts for podcast episodes if you have a podcast, or explainer articles where you could do that. You can even use these video avatars and have the script that you wrote out read by a AI instead of and it could be the AI that looks like you. I've shown this in conferences before, but there's several products out, but there's one called HeyGen, HeyGen, and I met online the owner of that company, the guy who founded it, and I've enjoyed playing with it. But I recorded like 3 minutes of video. I was reading a script that was like what is it when the president, it was like a teleprompter there. So I was reading from a teleprompter and the camera was facing me, and I was reading for like 3 minutes what it was telling me. And what it was doing was recording enough so that it was learning my voice. It was and the cadences. It was picking up enough video so that they can basically manipulate the video to match the voice. And what I did afterwards was, for the test, and the audience is really, I think, we're kind of stunned. And it's been a year and a half since I did this, but I read like 2 sentences in English, and then I told and then I had the AI read it again, in Chinese, in Spanish, Greek. I think I picked on there just these 2 sentences, and it looks like me saying it. It's in my voice. It's in those languages. And then when there was somebody that and I had asked, and then when I initially was demoing, it's like, does this sound like a native on there as far as like the accent goes? And they were like, yes, it does. It does sound like somebody like you're a native Chinese speaker or a native Greek speaker. And it's like, that's amazing on there. So those kind of tools exist, especially I think they're especially good for people who are camera shy and maybe don't want to be out front on video and that. So that's the other thing that's kind of cool about AI is there's lots of different, for people who have, some people are great, love to write. Some people love to be doing live things. Some people have like a combination, but you can usually find tie-ins. So, other things aside from that you can do, you can take, those blog posts, you can make LinkedIn posts, you can make X posts, you can or threads, or so you can repurpose the same content for different social media. And then last but not least, something I do frequently, and I did this actually in Barbados with my PowerPoint. So I wrote an article for the ABA a couple of months ago about this question about using AI how clients are using it. Well, I wrote 2 articles. I wrote one about the Google reviews question, and the other one I wrote was how people are using AI now to find lawyers as opposed to just traditional search engines. And I fed them into the AI, and I told it to give me slides for this panel presentation, summarize sort of the gist of each of these articles, and come up with 4 or 5 slides for each of the articles of the main points. And that's what I used in the presentation. And it worked really well on there. So hopefully that's some thought, some useful information about things you could do with it. And it's really, marketing is a great intro for a lot of people that want to start using AI, that are maybe a little bit nervous about it, and they're a little afraid about the consequences of using it. this is sort of like low stakes, low hanging fruit kind of stuff where you can really kind of get in. And I tell people, if like that's what you should start with, don't start with the most, like your client's life is on the line and you're using for heavy duty drafting and all that.
Right.
Don't do any of that until you've like really gotten some comfort with it and you really understand how to, how the tools actually work. It's worth mentioning, there's a couple of ethics rules that affect marketing that you should be aware of if you're using AI. So one is Model Rule 7.1 requires content to be truthful and non-misleading. So the lawyer has to assure that, and you want to ensure that there's no hallucinations in the content that you're producing. There's a Model Rule 1.1, which comes up in a lot of different places with AI, but that has to do with technology competence that could come up in the marketing space. There was a lawyer in New York, I think it was really early on, who got into trouble for something they put in a blog. It wasn't a court filing, so it's not really the same, the same level, but it was something that they cited to 7.1 and 1.1. 5.3 is what, when you're supervising. 5.3 and 5.1 are the rules about supervising non-attorneys and attorneys. That can come up when you're producing high stakes marketing content that people might be relying on, that are telling them things. So you want to be careful about that. And then I already mentioned 1.6 confidentiality. So you want to be careful to make sure that you're paying attention to the marketing rules, not just for legal research and drafting, documents that you're filing with courts or whatever, but also even the marketing stuff you're working on. You want to be careful.
And for people who don't know, Greg, where could they find that information with a listing of those rules?
So it's actually pretty easy. If you can find the ABA model rules online, and for the most part, you can find your state rules model rule, your state rules, real rules online by just Googling it. If you are a Gen user, we actually have a sort of an experimental tool, but it's worth trying, where you can plug in hypotheticals, and we have the ethics rules in there, and you can usually get a pretty good answer. AILA has an amazing ethics book that's like, I don't know, it's like 600 or 700 pages of everything, and it's all from the immigration lawyers. The hypotheticals and the rules and all that are all talked about from the immigration lawyer perspective. I highly recommend having that. That book's a PDF, so you're not going to have it's not going to be sitting on your desk, but having a perusal through that can be really helpful. And that book is in Gen. If you're a Gen user, Visalaw.ai. I think we're supposed to be getting away from Gen. If you're a Visalaw.ai user and you ask questions, it will feed into the answers. But it's that's where I would probably go to learn more about the different rules.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, Greg. Well, so we did some work creating a personal marketing plan, and so I think this is going to be useful for people if they want to get into it themselves and maybe try this out as sort of a jumping off point, sort of taking in all of these things that we've talked about so far. And so we'll start with my personal marketing plan for Schiller Immigration Law. Okay. We'll start there and then we'll show everybody the prompt and we'll have you sort of take us through how you made that prompt and sort of what goes into making a good prompt.
I want to see how I did for you.
Yeah. Well, let's check it out. So we're going to bring this forward. So this is my personal marketing plan and I can make this a little bit bigger for everybody. So we've
used this actually, this prompt in with an attorney at the law firm who was trying to develop a personal marketing plan, and that was kind of what gave impetus to working on this project. But we did it live, where we were basically with a couple of the more senior lawyers with this younger lawyer on it. So that was I have seen it in action for a real lawyer. We'll see how the fake law firm does.
That's right. And so for Schiller Immigration Law, we mainly do H-1Bs, and we work with universities and healthcare employers. So From the information I gave it, it's got this really strong positioning statement that it gave me, helping universities and healthcare organizations navigate H-1B sponsorship to recruit and retain the global talent that drives research, education, and patient care, which is a really strong positioning statement. And then, as a marketing professional, the things that, you can see in this is that it's telling you what it is. You know exactly what we do. And it's super short, super snappy, and it really positions us well. And I think what astonishes me as we go through this, and people can decide for themselves, but this is the kind of marketing plan that would take, either a full day of work or, even weeks.
How much would you pay the consultant?
That's right.
Help you write this. That's the question.
That's right. And so it gave me some core objectives to do in this 12-month plan that we had laid out in our prompt. And so the places where I'm going to be focusing are LinkedIn referrals. We're going to improve my newsletter open rates because I've got a newsletter that I'm doing, and we're going to try to grow my client roster by 5%, which I think is even a conservative goal, but that's what I plugged in for it. And so through this, we've got a quarterly action plan. It's got a LinkedIn posting strategy. It's got an email newsletter strategy and the blog posting strategy. In addition to that, it's telling me I need to identify 2 industry events to attend. And so it's offered me a couple of options here, AILA Regional being one of them, and even some healthcare and HR conferences that I can go to as well. And so then it's a similar thing. So Q1, Q2, and as we go through this, you can kind of see it. It's very, one of the main things that you need to aim for, and this is a marketing tip more than anything, is, you need to aim for consistency. And so that's sort of one of the things that's building out in this guide, is just finding a consistent way to do these things. We know that 63% of immigration lawyers spend 10 hours or less on marketing weekly, and half are spending under 5. So you have to be able to, use your time wisely. And that's, I think, one of the things that the prompt helps build out is you can see here, repurposing top performing videos or carousel posts or written summaries of those things. That's what we talked about before, just in repurposing a lot of the content that you're going to be creating, whether that's a blog post or otherwise. So yeah, we continue to go through this, and we've got a 4-quarter plan, and this is a full 4 quarters. And I think, once you have this, you can even, you can itemize further after when we go into the prompt. We can talk about sort of some of the other things there, but here is the content calendar summary. So this is everything in a nutshell. We'll be doing a lot of videos, we'll be doing some blog posts, and we'll be doing my newsletter. And this is all, I would say, fairly attainable. But in addition to that, it also gives you the metrics and success indicators. So we're going to try to find some targets, and it's so helpful to have goals. From a marketing perspective, it's so helpful to have goals that you can strive for, and you can decide, whether something needs to be optimized or needs tweaking, or if you need to plow ahead with something. If you're getting a lot of referrals from blog posts, you probably need to up your blog posts, and you'll be able to see that because of the goals. And then we have our time allocation. So I said, I'm only got 2 to 4 hours. We know that the majority of immigration lawyers are spending, less than 5 hours a week. So this plan that it's laid out for me, I'm only spending, an hour on videos, 15 minutes and 30 minutes on networking follow-up. And so that's really helpful for planning as well. And then it gives me some recommended tools that I can get started, and an accountability structure. It knows that I need to check in with myself and see what's working and what's not. I think this is such a remarkably in-depth answer, I think, is really the bottom line that I'm trying to get at. And it gives me some next steps here. And that's the plan that it provided for me. Greg, do you think I can get some clients with this marketing plan?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think when people see the prompt, they're going to understand that this is not just a generic kind of response that it gives to any immigration lawyers. And that's sort of the secret to this, is that there's a lot of clarifying that happens on the front end. So yes, I think it should be fairly successful. But the other thing to kind of keep in mind is it is a chatbot. So you are having a conversation with the AI, and maybe it's that something shows up in here and it's like, yeah, that's not my cup of tea. I'm not going to be doing that. Take that out. Give me, I want to do more on this or that. So, that's what you're sort of like, this is you get a first draft. And then, if you had somebody, outside consultant, or you have an internal marketing person, and they basically, worked on this thing after a conversation with you, and then they handed it to you, you're going to go through it and mark it up and make changes that are going to fit what makes sense for you on there, and treat this the same way. You're not going to, I would be a little disappointed in somebody that basically had something spit out that was, this on there, and then uncritically just followed it without actually thinking about like whether everything that's in there is the perfect fit. But what I think, and I guess hopefully you're going to show the prompt that
Yes.
generates this. I think when people see that, they're going to have a better idea about why this is actually fairly closely customized to what you were probably looking for.
Yeah.
So this is, maybe scroll down all the way to the bottom so people can kind of
Sure.
see how detailed this prompt is on here. It's I don't know how many pages it is, but it's a fairly lengthy prompt on there. The ones that I write for actual immigration law tasks are oftentimes much longer, but even for something that's just marketing, it can be fairly detailed. So at the very beginning, that first paragraph, and maybe if you want to kind of like put a highlighter over it, that is is basically giving the assignment to the AI, broadly speaking. So first off, you have to tell it like what role it's supposed to be playing. So this is a marketing strategist for immigration law firms. And that is, when it's designing it, it's writing something from the perspective of a marketing professional that you would have hired as a consultant to help you do this. And then the second sentence is basically telling it what you're expecting to do. You're going to create a practical, ethically compliant marketing plan. And I put that word, I put that phrase in there deliberately because I wanted the plan to come out not to suggest ridiculous things that were going to get lawyers into trouble. I wanted to be thinking about stuff that any lawyer can do and be proud of. And then I wanted it to focus on the person's strengths, the firm's resources, and then any niche areas that are there. So I know that you said that you do for Schiller Law Firm, you're doing healthcare, was it healthcare and university stuff?
Yes.
On there. So that was also something that, was important. So the next paragraph though, what I want is, this is for both the AI and for the lawyer, to give it ideas for things that you could actually upload to get a better answer. So, some information will be about the lawyer, and that's it'll ask the lawyer about that. Well, actually, no, these are the clarifying questions. So that's that's asking about subspecialties. It's asking about what kinds of clients the firm has. So basically, they are. Hang on, let me turn this off. Sorry about that. It's the personal goals and all that. So basically, when you were doing this, Ian, it should have been more like an initial interview where it was throwing questions at you. Should have had you do like a Loom video. But basically showing you like one question at a time, and you would answer it. And then, like you probably said, 2 to 4 hours that you could commit to this per week. So all these clarifying questions that it was asking, but they're all important as far as the output that goes. And it says ask questions one at a time.
Yeah. And I'll say, just for clarification, and yeah, we should have done a Loom video. That's a great idea. I ended up using Claude for this, and I did actually compare it to a couple others, and they all worked because the prompt, because this does ask for you to give these questions one at a time, which it does. It's sort of like, hey, what do you think of this? And you give it your answer, and it's like, what do you do here? And And yeah, so it is very much, I think that's what the great thing is. It's also super manageable from somebody who is answering it. You're able to like think about these things and you get the questions one at a time so you can go through those easily. But yeah, just that context as well.
All right. So then these suggested uploads, that's the part that it actually is intended for both the AI and for the lawyers to kind of give an idea of some types of documents you could upload that would improve the answer. So your firm may already have some things that you have to pay attention to regarding marketing. So your firm might have a social media policy and says, oh, hell no, you're not publishing on this particular platform. Or they might say on there that, we don't want you posting anything super political. Just keep it to the, immigration law. We kind of like, we can go there for the most part as far as projects go. And I think even our corporate clients kind of like say, oh, it's just the immigration lawyers, we can ignore them on that part of it. But it is something that the resume or the professional bio. I think when I tried it with the associate, I had her. There's a way that you can turn a LinkedIn profile into a resume, and I think that's what was used in the test run that we did with her. On there, but those are things that you can upload. So I always try and come up with things that might be, helpful if you uploaded them, that they would produce better results. Then I have boilerplate, and I put these in every prompt that I work on. Are things that are designed to keep it under control as far as what it's doing. So here it's like ensure compliance with immigration law and solicitation rules, et cetera. We already said something about ethics at the top, but this is just a reminder. But there are some other things as far as keeping it realistic. Don't go out, wild things that are never going to be achievable. Maybe pay attention to that. But the and other things like I want it limited to 12 months. I want you to verify that the recommendations align with the firm policies and things like that. So that's boilerplate. And then the last part is sort of like a sample input and output. This is very abbreviated, but it gives an idea a little bit about to the AI, kind of like how I want them to handle the input and basically give an idea a little bit about what the output might look like. Not as important necessarily for marketing tasks, but what I'm looking for oftentimes is to get consistency in the response, so that if multiple people are using this prompt, that the plans that it comes out with are going to look fairly similar in structure. And then it's not going to look like, very different types of documents that look like they were basically with completely different assignments. And that's it on there. I think we had some more in the, most of this is just sort of some sample language that they can use. And this is just to give it a little structure to the answers and not to necessarily tell the AI what to write.
Yeah, that's right. And if we look back, this example output is very, very similar to what the AI provided, but it is not one-to-one. The AI does do some thinking here as it, works out this plan and, gives me some of these action items. And I think that's what's really remarkable as well. And as another note, because I did test this with other language models, is it's not one-to-one. I thought, well, one thing that was really interesting is even just in the prompt, in the questions that it would return to me, just some of the questions would be different or worded slightly differently, not different questions, but it just sort of goes to show, you might be able to get different answers from different LLMs. But yeah, that is, that's the prompt that we used and the output that we got. And I think that's a really remarkable place. And I think that does help illustrate for people maybe where they can begin their marketing journey as far as, working in immigration and not even spending too much time on it. And then from there, you can, find some more jumping off points and really begin to hopefully roll in some clients. And hopefully next year in the AILA practice pulse, we won't have 10% of people responding that they don't have enough work.
I don't know if this is going to change that overnight, but hopefully one of those people. We had a question.
Yes.
I don't know if you wanted to. So This is a question, and I addressed this a little bit before, but I'll repeat it again. So have any lawyers raised concerns about entering information into open-ended tools? They do raise those concerns. They should be raising those concerns. Everybody listening to this should be raising those kinds of concerns as well. When you are using public tools like ChatGPT, that you are not putting in any information that would be potentially exposing confidential information or things that are, I mean, it could be as well that you don't want to put marketing queries into a public tool if they're sort of like super confidential things that you may be wanting to put into, into this plan. But for this part, for the most part, this is pretty tame stuff that we're talking about as far as what we're trying to do. But maybe you have some secret plan to do some new practice area that's very novel and you don't want to like give away secrets or anything like that. But I don't think that's most of you, but I would say definitely do not use a public tool like ChatGPT for tasks that would be where you have any concerns about confidential information. That's just something I can't emphasize enough. We all see the cases that happen over and over again with lawyers that get into trouble with this kind of stuff. But that's why I was saying that these are good. Marketing is a really good use of the public tools because you really can't get into too much trouble for anything that it outputs unless you are, for example, it's not a question of whether it was confidential information. It's whether it's telling you to do things that are going to get you into trouble, like ethics trouble, like, for example, I think if it's telling you to do things in your marketing that might violate some of those ethics rules that we talked about earlier. But it's a fair question, and I think that it's something that you all need to be up on your ethics rules whenever you're using AI tools. The happy news is you can use all kinds of AI tools ethically, and that's going to be a point that we're going to emphasize every week when you are using these tools.
Absolutely. It's a great takeaway. And it's definitely, I think, part of the conversation that we need to be always sort of at the forefront is for everybody's own sake to use these responsibly and ethically. And there's some really good resources that you can help guide yourself. If you have any questions, always, it's sort of one of those things. It's like, yeah, if you've got questions about it, definitely err on the side of caution.
Yeah. I'm going to do that presentation I did for the Latin American chapter conference. Some of our future programs, I'll get back and show you some of what it is. We're going to try and keep these to about 45 minutes or so, or I mean, maybe it'll last an hour from time to time, but we're not going to, we're going to hopefully be doing this for a while. So there'll be a lot of topics that we can cover. All right, so we have a question. Does it apply when the LLM model that you're using is a paid version? Well, what I will tell you about the paid versions, first off, if you're using the $20 ChatGPT version, it's not really going to make a big difference as far as from the ethics perspective, if you're using that version or not, because a human is potentially still in the loop. So I would just say if you're using the paid version of it, there are reasons to use the paid version, including that you have access to more models and you have maybe a higher output and you have more features that are available to you. I generally think, $20 for ChatGPT or $30 per month for Microsoft Copilot or whatever Google and Claude are charging, which is probably similar to ChatGPT. I think those tools are good, but like I said, I mean, I think that you need to read the terms of service. If you're not comfortable reading the terms of service, take the terms of service and feed it into the AI and tell it to find things that should concern you from an ethics perspective, or whatever your concerns are, and spot them. I do that all the time with very dense terms of service language or user agreements or things like that to make sure I have a better understanding of what it is that I'm signing on to. But you could do that, and it just like there are lots of different paid versions. So ChatGPT has a $200 a month version that gets you very, in deep thinking and gets you some more protections. But Ian, that's another thing. Is I have this great slide that shows for ChatGPT and the other models, what are the different levels from an ethics perspective? What are the different things that you get with the higher, with certain paid models and versus certain free models? And maybe maybe next week we'll show that slide, because I think that will address Simriti's question a little bit better. But you should know what the differences are between the paid versions and the free versions when you're using any of these products, and make sure that if you're using, if you're using any of them, whether they're paid or free, that you have an understanding of what's happening with your data.
That's an excellent plug. We'll have to do that next week, and so everybody can see that and learn a little bit more about it. It is definitely one of the best conversations to be had in this very moment, especially for immigration lawyers. As we close out today, I'm going to throw up here a little QR code. This is the legal AI prompt pack put together by Greg, by Jason Susser as well, and part of the team at Visalaw.ai. This is a free resource. This is just some AI prompts and some guidance on prompting, some of the stuff that you got today.
And go to prompt.law.
And go to prompt.law as well, which has a full library of prompts that Greg has personally put together. And that you can also, if you find prompts that you do yourself, Greg, people can upload those as well to prompt.law.
Absolutely. I wish more people would, but that's like where I'm spending a lot of my my spare time working on those prompts, and they are free. You don't have to you give virtually no information on yourself. A first name, last name, and email address is all you need to set up an account. There's no advertising on it. We're not collecting any information on anybody or email addresses or any of that stuff. It is pure public service, and hope people find it helpful.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Greg, I appreciate you joining me today, and I think that we got some really good questions today. And so, if anybody else has any more questions, again, feel free to comment, and we'll get back to those asynchronously. So you can leave a comment today wherever you find this, and wherever whatever else you're looking to hear about. We are excited to provide that for you. So this was a fun first episode, Greg, of Immigration Legal Tech Conversations. I look forward to doing these again.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye, y'all.